Good morning, everyone. This is Kathy Mason from MasonWorks Marketing here on Conscious Business Zone. Today with my new friend, Sam Chin. Hi, Sam. How are you?
Hi.
So, Sam, I'd love to know a lot about your journey so that we can learn a little bit about this new, well, it's not new for you, but new for a lot of us, this new way to do meditation called turning in. So could you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, so my dad taught me to meditate, and my brother, we were each 4 years old when he taught us to meditate. And some of my first memories that I can recollect are of him teaching meditation in our living room when I was a toddler. I would walk in and hang out, and I would see him instructing people and being on the phone instructing people. And um, meditation was incorporated into, what I learned to be a part of my daily routine always. And it was this gentle way because a part of the technique is also no forcing. So as much as he encouraged me to meditate daily, it wasn't a strict thing like you have to meditate, but I loved my parents. I respected my parents. So when they would tell me on our way to school, they're driving me to school, okay, you finished your breakfast, you want to meditate for like 5 minutes, they would time it for me so I could let go and have this balancing part of my day. And it would happen at the second part of the day as well, because we do two a day. Um, and it really helped me go through a lot of changes and shifts that were happening, especially when I was really young. We moved to Massachusetts when I was in third grade, and moving from California to a small town in uh, New England was a culture shock for me as a person, and also just in terms of how I express myself, fashion wise, personality wise. So having the meditation really helped me stay grounded in who I was, although there was a lot of discomfort happening at the same time. So that developed and continued throughout my life. And I always had conversations with my parents and my brother and my other family members and parents, friends who learned to meditate, just talking about either the technique kind of experiences that I was having or they were having, or things that had to do with this connection with this yourself and how I interacted with the world. So that continued until throughout when I was in college, that's when it really clicked to me that having conversations about meditation and talking about how different this technique is was something that made me very happy, and it clicked this gear into place for me, especially when I was talking to strangers in Ubers or at school, because I would meditate in Uber pools to and from school on my way to work, fit it in where I could for the sake of balancing myself out and, meditating outside classes. So it would come up because I'm just sitting there with my eyes closed, or I would let people know, especially the drivers, like, I'm not falling asleep. Like, I know the ride is going to be up. So this conversation would start happening about meditation. And a lot of people would tell me, meditation is so hard. I've tried so many different things. I can't clear my mind. I can't seem to sit still. My thoughts seem to bother me. And those are all parts of the technique that I have known my whole life that we don't pay attention to. We don't focus the mind. We don't clear the mind of thoughts. We don't judge the content of the thoughts that we're having or the experience of feeling that we're having during the meditation because it works anyway. So being able to have this solution, and at the time, I would just tell people my dad teaches meditation, give them his information. um, this very different technique of meditation that is non-religious, non-cultural, very, very easy to fit into your life, um, was very exciting for me to offer. But I also had started at that time to wonder, it would be nice if I could, like, I talk about meditation so much. And it's so easy for me. And it's just a very integrated part of my language, my lifestyle, my upbringing. Started talking to my dad, what about me teaching meditation? And he was like, yeah, of course. Like, absolutely. Like, you are pretty much ready now. So we just got into um, talking about what that would look like in terms of it's really about solidifying the language just to make everything simplified because our technique is so easy. So the languaging of it is also very simple. So that has turned into the past now couple of years of getting, balancing my other things in life to now prioritize this to become a teacher myself. So I'm very excited that that's now where I'm walking into. Yeah.
Well, I have to say, I think you're so lucky to have been given that tool at a young age because so many people that are highly sensitive and that are magical in their own right, they're out of body a lot. And
Hmm.
what you learned is how to be in body
Yeah.
by bringing it in and going inside, not projecting everything out, calming your mind, learning how to deal with your own anxieties or your own um, thoughts that might not be totally to your highest good, and
Hmm.
control yourself. Plus the discipline of choosing that versus chatting on the phone or being on social media. I mean, or games.
Hmm.
This is a game you play with yourself anytime you want, without
Hmm.
any tools, without special clothing or special language skills. I mean,
Hmm.
some of the people have made all of the internal work seem like a difficult thing to do, but what you are teaching and what your dad taught me, Kelvin Chin taught me, was this super easy way to get into state. I mean, it is so amazingly easy. It almost doesn't seem like you're doing it right, but
Hmm.
because it is. I mean, the other, when you think about TM and all of the other modalities that are for meditation, there's really so many rules and regulations about how you do it. And this is not like that. This is, you call in state, and then you just, I imagine you give us a word, just like Calvin gave us a word. And then if you need to get into state, that's your trigger to get you aligned to your core. And
Hmm.
it's like taking a little nap at
Hmm.
any point, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I honestly prefer if I am going to take a nap, I will meditate to go into it. Or oftentimes, I mean, with the way that my life has been and I've chosen to structure my life, it's very, very busy. So a lot of time I only really can fit in a meditation. And sometimes that's 5 minutes, sometimes that's 20 minutes. And sometimes if I have more, time on the back end of flexibility, I'll fall into a nap. I'll set an alarm just in case, for when I do actually have to get going to be somewhere. But meditation is my go-to tool for,
Yes.
having some point of rest in the day other than waking and sleeping. We always tell people if sleep was enough, then nobody would be walking around tired and stressed out. So that's why this technique is so important and so helpful, is because, like you said, it's so easy. There isn't all of these extra things that you have to incorporate, a place, a special place to sit, a special, there's nothing ceremonial or ritual, ceremonial about it in terms of what you wear, what your space is like, if you have, um, something burning or anything like that. And not that any of those things are bad, like you can incorporate those things if you really wanted to, but what those things can do is limit you to fitting in the practice, because we all have ideals of how we like to have certain things in our life. I always equate it to working out. Like I ideally would work out for maybe an hour each day, but I don't have that all the time. So I have to fit it in where I can, just the same way that I fit in my meditation. Like sometimes I only have 10 minutes before I get in the shower to go to work to do, a little workout. And I do that for the sake of having that regularity for my body, for my mental health too, that sense of accomplishment, it builds upon itself over time. And you do see those benefits over time, the more consistent that you are with working out or with, working on an art project or something like that. It's the same exact thing with meditation is, we fit it in where we can consistently so that we have those benefits accumulating on themselves over time. And then what this technique does is it allows the benefits that we experience in the meditation to cascade over into our waking state life, which is where we are living. We're experiencing and interacting with the world around us, progressing in life, learning about ourselves, and exchanging connections with other people, which I think is really what life is about. We have all of these assets that are important for this human experience because we're in this physical body in a physical world interacting with that. But what the things that I remember, at least, I was talking about this with a friend just a couple of days ago, like I've experienced a lot of loss in my life in terms of people passing suddenly or people very close to me. And the things that I remember, what lasts with me the most is the feeling that I have with those people. It's not, sometimes it's conversations, which are those are experiences that I have with those people, but the feeling of exchanging connection with that person is what I remember the most. And I found that having this meditation where I connect with myself and by allowing there to be space for all of these changes in emotional um, variety allows me to more deeply connect with myself, which in turn affects how I relate with other people.
Yeah.
And it makes life kind of this more enjoyable, fuller experience. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that the other thing that I'd like to suggest is that when you are able to process and release, let's say you're on a Uber or you're on a bus and or a train and something happens. Like I was on an airplane flight not too long ago and one of the engines went out.
Mm.
And I saw it and it was like, yeah, I'm in a movie.
Oh
And
my
I was
God.
on the window seat and you
Oh
see
my
these
God.
flames coming out. I was like, oh my God, you could smell it. And you could just right away just go in and then I could have a level head, whereas there were other people, in the plane, but we're going through lots of plane rides like that right now with all the changes in the world and how we're so in touch with everything with the internet, where we know about any discomfort for any human on any part of the world right now. And there's lots of things that need to be changed, but we can go within and work on our perception and our articulation of that energy so that it diffuses the negative. And
Mhm.
there aren't that many things. I mean, it's like having a tool in your toolkit. You got a hammer on this side, a screwdriver on the other, and you can just go, okay, which tool serves me best right now? And the
Mhm.
idea of coming within and processing instead of stuffing, because that's, I believe, sickness, illness comes from when you stuff it, right?
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah. The other thing I wanted to share is I'm jealous that you got to learn all of this so young. They're doing experiments in schools in England where they're
Mhm.
teaching meditation to kindergarten kids and first grade, in elementary school.
Mhm.
And those kids are going to be able to um, change the world in a whole different way than the people that have not had the benefit of knowing themselves or processing their own work because of all the changes again. I keep going back to
Mhm.
change. But
Yeah.
so do you know anything about that? Do you know anything about how meditation's used in in other schools, in elementary schools or anywhere in the world?
I haven't heard about that specifically, but I'm not surprised
Yeah.
because of the way that wellness has taken such, thankfully, a much more of like a forefront in people's attention. I've I can't exactly say when, but in my perception, I feel like it really started kind of uh magnifying once we had the pandemic because we had to be with ourselves. And there was this whole thing of uncertainty of what's going on in the state of health and people having to, either be in solitude with themselves or in intimate spaces in lockdown with their loved ones. And wellness, I think, has taken such a much bigger turn. Mental health has become such a much bigger conversation. And I think it's so important to have that attention put onto the youth because of also how the world is, and like you were saying with the internet, there's such a difference even in the generation that I had of what kind of access of information we have. And while it is an amazing thing to have access to all of this information, it can be a little bit bombarding, especially when you're in these young ages of being so malleable. You're like this sponge of intaking information. These seeds kind of get planted into your, subconscious, and they might come out later when you're in your 20s. Like that's like, so it's a very important time to be able to have this relationship with yourself and balance things out to kind of understand like where is my identity and where are these things that could influence me if I allow them to. But sometimes when we, especially when you're young or kind of at any age, if we don't have this um solid and ever evolving relationship with ourselves, it can be a lot more difficult to differentiate who we are and what is the outside that is trying to kind of come in, and how do we want to allow that choice to, or make that choice to allow things to permeate our identity or not.
Right. Well, I don't think that very many kids are aware of identity because they're so in high school and in college, you're trying to fit in, you're trying to be cool.
Yeah.
All of those things that you're experimenting with things and you don't really have a fear of death at that point. So you're doing things that you probably shouldn't. And
Hmm.
so what I love about this opportunity is that you make the meditation technique available as an empowerment tool for everyone. Doesn't
Hmm.
matter age, doesn't matter. There isn't any specification about language, anything. This could be translated in any language and it's accessible and usable on a dime. And
Hmm.
that's what I think is going to help us do problem solving because we are in a time of transition where people say it's the age of Aquarius or the Kali Yuga. There's all different names of it, but you can feel that the old structures of inequity and the patriarchal systems are changing. And
Hmm.
we need to have people that are aware and grounded to help with problem solving. And
Hmm.
I don't think you can when you're just putting fires out here, there, and everywhere. I think at
Yeah.
a certain point, we're in the fire right now, right?
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
so are you seeing that too? Did you see that this system helped you make decisions, helped you be more sure of yourself, feel
Yeah.
empowered?
Yeah. I would say, I mean, there's this kind of misconception that I've experienced now with teaching more people and speaking to some of my dad's students that like because I've been meditating for as long as I have, that I don't experience stress or I don't experience anxiety. And that's not what this meditation technique does. A lot of other, I feel like there's kind of like toxic positivity that happens in the wellness space sometimes where it might be well intended, but it's selling the wrong thing to people about different maybe other meditation techniques or other kind of things that people can incorporate where they pitch that you're going to be immune to all negativity in life. And that's not what this technique does, and it's not what it did for me. What it does, it allowed me to have more room on my emotional platter to have a lot of different things going on at one time, whether that's uncomfortable feelings of change, maybe um, growing into myself and understanding what that looks like. But what it did for me in terms of, problem solving and making decisions was that because I had been meditating for so long and the benefits build on themselves the way that they do with this self-confidence and being comfortable with uncertainty. Uncertainty is something that we talk about in the beginning of the class, where that is just a part of life that no one has control over. There's always an aspect of uncertainty, and I think that leads to a lot of anxiety for a lot of people, and which is normal. No one likes to feel uncertain. We like to be prepared and secure, but while that's just a factor of life in most things, the biggest thing that I have experienced is having different reservoirs of myself that I could pull from in situations where I am uncomfortable or I'm going through a period of time or a situation or an interaction that is unpleasant. I can pull from a reservoir of like, okay, do I want to have more of a step back? I don't need to take things personally. I can allow this person to express themselves, even if I don't agree with it, and it's not going to affect me. We don't have control over where people are at in their lives or even in a moment that we're exchanging with them. Um, and a lot of times we can there's that choice to have this interaction deeply affect us. So the meditation technique has allowed me to, like I said, have more space to experience stress and anxiety and discomfort as I go through life, evolving and understanding who I am. Um, and having this kind of, I think it's an ever changing thing with everybody, figuring out what works for us, who we are. Most of the time we'll have a pretty sure sense of kind of the core of who we are, but we're always learning different things about ourselves,
Right.
which I think is important to allow that space, like you said, to have changes happen. We can't always say, like, I've always been this way and just make ourselves stay that way. We can have that choice to make shifts and be like, okay, this maybe isn't working for me. And I feel like having the meditation as this kind of, it's kind, just as much as I have blood running through my body all the time, I've always had this meditation technique as a part of my makeup, and being able to go back to that in these times of stress or uncertainty or difficult periods of life that just happen to everybody, no matter what kind of wellness practices you have for however long. I've been meditating now for uh 25 out of the 29 years of my life.
Wow.
Um,
Oh, that's fantastic. Well,
yeah, yeah.
to let people know also, I mean, you are working as a model, and you have all these other, and you've been a professional dancer, and those modeling and dancing are highly competitive, they're difficult occupations because your competition a lot of times is vicious.
Hmm.
And really will go if you aren't sure of yourself and who you are and what you offer, you can really get ripped up. You can
Hmm.
really be wounded by
Hmm.
the other people around you and internalize. They criticize this, and you just play that tape over and over and over again. And I'm sure meditation has helped you be able to listen to that and get what you needed out of it rather than be wounded by it. Would you
Hmm.
agree?
I do, yeah. Um, I mean, both of these uh industries that I've chosen have a lot to do with how you look, how you present your body, what's your technical skill level like. Um, but I've always looked at life a little bit deeper than that, especially with dance. I understand performance wise, actually with dance and modeling. I have always found that even though you're seeing me from a physical place, what is actually contributing to this performance or contributing to the energy that is coming out of a photo or a campaign is the energy of who I am within. And that's always been the most important to me. I mean, of course, like, making sure my skin is all together, I'm, stretched and everything. Those are very important things as well. But making sure that where I am internally before a performance, before a photo shoot has always been in the top priorities of making sure like keeping myself in check. Because I know that that shows through. And I've experienced that from the contrast of the times where I'm like, that doesn't matter very much. Like, in my younger ages, because I've had meditation for so long, there was this, the angsty period that most of us have in teenage years where I'm like, oh, like it's it's all it's I have to focus on other things, what I look like, like am I, especially in dance or something like that. I'm like, I got to make sure my kicks or my stretches are all intact. But when I wasn't right within, the performance would be off. Or I've done photo shoots where I was maybe allowing more of the stressful things in life to get into my head mentally. I could see that captured within that photo. So having the contrast of those experiences has reminded me, and now it's a non-issue for me to remember that who I am internally has a lot to do with how I'm presented in the world, as well as things falling into place in an energetic way of getting job opportunities, of getting booked for a photo shoot has a lot to do with where I am with myself at that time and what is the narrative that I'm feeding into, because there's all kinds of different levels of what we're saying to ourselves in our minds. We have these different options. They all live there. It's just about what are you subscribing to? And when I choose to subscribe to the ones that fulfill me the most, that are true, um, then life seems to fall into place a little bit better, especially with these kinds of modeling and dance opportunities.
Well, I think that your example of that really will help a lot of people because they have their own version of being on stage, whether it's a business meeting or a review or a family event that's difficult. I mean, there's so many different ways for people to release their traumas basically by finally processing them and then coming to a different conclusion, and not have it run the course.
Mhm.
That's what you're saying is you get right with yourself and then show up. And
Mhm.
that's what this incredible type of meditation, which, as we said, it's so easy. Everyone can learn how to do it. You just need a good teacher, like Sam or like her dad, and you need someone to hold that energy so you can, it's like being on a bicycle. You get on the bicycle, someone holds the bicycle for you, and then you remember what it feels like. And you can do it anywhere. You could go if you're having a difficult lunch conversation, you can go to the restroom and go hook in for a few minutes while you're in the restroom and come back totally different, totally changed. But this is an opportunity people don't know that they have.
Mhm.
They're projecting out a story. Lots of people live their life in story. That's all I can say.
Yeah. Um, yeah, with the technique, it's that, like you were saying, it's so easy. We kind of, a lot of people who are new to it, there's kind of this natural complication that our brain does where like it's so easy, like there has to be something more to it. So a lot of what we're teaching is a different way that our mind operates, but it's not completely foreign. It works with this natural tendency of our mind, which our mind wanders. And a lot of meditation techniques out there will try to make you shy away from that. You're in this focusing and engaging state, which isn't always easy for people. And it's not the most natural. It's very useful for us, to get things done, to sort out life, all kinds of things like take focus, driving a car, taking your kids, getting your kids' schedule right for the day. All of those things are very important. But when we think about how we balance our mind, being in a not non-engaged, we call it a conscious but undirected state, allows your neurophysiology to balance in such a way that is so easy and it's so beneficial. And like you're saying, and we teach to people, it is so flexible. Like I said earlier, the ideals we have. Maybe people ideally want to meditate 15 to 20 minutes, but I have so many times where I only have about 4 minutes. I have about 5 minutes and I fit it in where I can. And my dad talks about this all the time. There was a year's stretch of period where his first meditation in the day would be 60 seconds, technique and a few minutes rest period. So that's like 4 minutes every day. And it's really so so helpful, especially when a lot of people have such busy lives. And we often are in this state when we're busy of just expending our energy outward, giving it to other people, giving it to work, giving it to our children, all very valuable. But we have to find ways to fill our own cup first so that we can overflow into these spaces. And that's what this meditation technique does. And it's not necessarily that we are ignoring the uncomfortable feelings or uncomfortable times that we're going through. It's just this reservoir, as I said earlier, that we pull from in certain situations so that we can operate in a much more balanced way and show up in the places that we need to amidst stressful or uncomfortable times going on. And the meditation ensures that you are taking at least a few minutes twice a day to give that to yourself.
That's perfect. So for 5 years, I was a community leader of um, a, a group, a healing group called the Bruno Gurning Circle of Friends. And what we would do is the same, it was 9 o'clock in the morning and 9 o'clock at evening. But you had to, I have special music, you had to have a picture with you. It was like sort of like TM in a way where you're using anchors outside of yourself to get into state.
Mhm.
But I still use it because once you've figured out a way to get out of your head and into your heart, it's that's where all the fun stuff is. That's where all the creativity comes in. That's where all the real genius is, at least in my opinion. And then if you can do all three of your brain centers together, your dantian, your heart, and your mind, then you really have a chance to have an expanded viewpoint and an expanded opportunity that maybe someone else might not even see,
Mhm.
because you're playing with reality in a whole different way. So
Mhm.
so I think this is a great tool. I'm so glad that I got to take a class in it, and I can't wait to experience your classes, Sam, because what I think people will see is this isn't selfish. this is actually showing up fully in the now as you.
Hmm.
It's you loving you. It's a gift you give yourself, right?
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, it's it's a gift that you're giving yourself, and it is when you give to yourself, you also give to other people,
Right.
which is creates this kind of this cyclical fulfillment of, it's ongoing of connecting with people. It feels good to connect with other people in other spaces and interact with your world in a fuller state. And the only way that you can really do that is you have to start with yourself. We have, we all kind of, there's 7 billion of us on this planet in our own bubbles where our bubbles kind of bump into each other. But we have to fulfill ourselves within our own bubble first. And something that you actually mentioned in terms of like, having this genius come out within us is, this meditation technique helps us balance our blood chemistry, our brain chemistry, our neurophysiology. But the way I explain it is that our spirit, our soul, that voice that we have, that shares our thoughts, has the same exact head voice as the thoughts that our brain generates. So it can be kind of difficult for us to sometimes differentiate, what are these thoughts that my brain is generating? Our thoughts that our brain comes up with, I feel like comes from memories, and it's trying to create a sense of safety by reading these patterns and learning from those experiences. But there's also this sense of genius, as you called it, or inspiration or spirit, God voice, some people may call it source energy, that has a lot to do with connecting with this other part of ourselves. But because it shares that same head voice as our thoughts, it can be difficult to sometimes listen to ourselves when that really is ourself speaking to us. So by balancing out our nervous system, it's kind of like a piece of fabric. Our whole sense of self is this piece of fabric. When we balance out our nervous system, the fibers of this fabric kind of begin to relax and open up. So then within, through these holes in the fabric, can come this voice of our genius, our soul, our deeper part of ourselves, so that we feel that confidence to listen to it and move through life in this very kind of like loving way, with uncertainty going on at the same time, where I'm like, oh, this kind of thought, this inspiration is coming up, and I don't know exactly where it's going to take me, but it feels like it's something that I really want to lean into. So I'm going to do that and figure out what happens as I continue to make these choices, instead of the brain kind of being like, no, that's stupid. You might wind up somewhere unsafe. That reservoir of like, I'll figure it out, is something that you can pull from having this meditation technique.
I think this is so perfect for small business owners who are servant leaders, and they're spending a lot of their time making sure that everything's perfect for their customers and and help their employees grow. This would be something that you could use for yourself to balance yourself during the day so that you are more rested and more capable of, riding the wave. And then if you enjoy it as much as I think you will, you're going to want your clients and your employees to have the benefit of this, because this is like having a pocket tool, seriously, in your toolkit that could change how you respond to everything within the day. Whether you honk your horn when you're driving, whether you are kind to the person in front of you, that comes from this internal balancing of being in balance with yourself and in love with this whole experience. And it's very hard to be in love with this whole experience if everything is out here and nothing is in here.
Mhm.
You can't do it. Plus, I think that I believe that we're all pieces of a very important puzzle. I don't think we'd be here during this time of change if we weren't, didn't have a valuable insight or a valuable thing to add to the puzzle. And, this is a way for you to find it
Hmm.
by
Yeah.
yourself. You can have a mentor to teach you how to do this. You can be in practice groups with Sam and with her father, Kelvin. There's opportunities to solidify it with other people, but in the end, it's yours as a gift to yourself that will change your life quickly. And seriously, within a month of starting, you will feel totally different. Seriously, I truly have seen it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we offer the lifetime follow-up program with the class, as you know, where our whole mission with teaching this technique is to create and or to cultivate in our students self-sufficiency and independence. And that doesn't mean that we're not here for you. We're here for you if you have questions, you want to schedule meditation, you want to sit in on a group class as a refresher, text call, anything for lifetime, for the rest of our lifetimes together. But we want this relationship with yourself to be what's growing within this experience. And it's so easy to do that. And like you can do it anywhere, like you're saying, Kathy. Like we say anywhere that you can think, you can meditate. Anywhere that you can just close your eyes and let go, you can meditate. So that's how I've always been able to have this tool with me. And of course, it's really nice to do it at the beach. I do that when I'm at the beach, and it's really nice. But sometimes I'm in the break rooms of my jobs. One of the jobs that I have right now is I work at a retail store. So I'm sitting in the back room. There's, it's not the biggest space. There's clothing, there's a computer, there's a printer, storage boxes, and that's the place where I'm meditating. And I sit there for however many minutes I have left of my break at that day. And a lot of people wouldn't think, that this is a place where you meditate. Um, or I went to it was like a botanical garden with a friend, and it hit that time of the afternoon where I could kind of feel my body. I was like, yeah, this is around the time that I like to do my second meditation. I don't do it at the same exact time every day, but I could feel my system start to be like, I could use a little bit of like a reboot. Um, so I found a park bench, just a bench that was around. There's lots of people milling around. I was like, "Do you want to meditate with me?" And he was like, "I get." Like he doesn't know how to meditate. Even though, he knows that I teach. He just hasn't gotten to the chance to learn yet. So I'm like, "Okay, I'm gonna sit here with my eyes closed." And I did that for like 10 minutes. And he was like, "How did you do that? Like that would make me so nervous that like there's people everywhere." And you get comfortable with that. The other thing is I grew up seeing my dad meditate everywhere. So I saw that I grew up seeing someone prioritizing the consistency of their meditation practice over what people think you're doing. I mean, when you're meditating, you just are sitting there with your eyes closed.
That's so perfect.
Nobody needs to know.
That's so
Yeah.
perfect because this is what you have to understand is when you go in, you still have the capacity to know what's around you. It's not like you're unsafe. Certainly somebody could still touch you and you would be able to respond. It's not like hypnotherapy where
Mhm.
you're under and you're out and hopefully you come back soon. This is totally something that within seconds, you could be at a different state where whatever's going on in your head can be either categorized or shell or put in its own little socket or processed and then you're free. It's like this huge opportunity to be free of anything else. And as you said, it creates a lot of rest too. What I wanted to do, Sam, is show the website real quick, if
Sure.
that's okay with you, and
Yeah.
then you can guide me.
Yeah.
So I show it. Okay, so here we
Yeah.
are.
Yeah.
And
So if you,
it's
mhm.
It's
Yeah.
tuningwithinmeditation.com. And now you can go, sorry.
Sure, no worries. I mean, this is the homepage of just kind of giving you the summary of everything. But yeah, it's an easy, effortless technique. We don't clear the mind, as these are a lot of the things that we spoke about earlier, of it being, free of having any restrictions on your belief systems, culture, uh, any kind of cultural, spiritual trappings in terms of how you practice. And there's me with a little bit of a blurb. And really just we covered a lot of it today about me, but if you wanted to click at the top where it says about Sam, there is uh, a little bit more detail about what the practice has done for me as I've grown up. And then at the very bottom, if people want to go to look at my dad's information, I have some of his information at the bottom with also links that take you to there's my brother and I when we were
That's
young.
so cool. I
Yeah.
had never seen that before yesterday
Yeah.
or the day before.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah, which
Love
is
it.
funny because I'm in that meditative position as a kid, but that's because I was still equating, I didn't, I was still equating meditation to having those kind of positions.
Sure.
To be clear, we don't do sitting positions or mudras or anything like that. Um, but yeah, this part here is, I mean, I'm talking about what we were saying, like this has helped me a lot with my stress management, but it just naturally and simultaneously allows and invites this relationship with yourself, discovering more about yourself because it clears these kind of cobwebs of stress from the brain, the nervous system, or blood chemistry and everything that those kinds of stressors or that level of stress starts to become more and more livable and manageable, where it doesn't get you to a place where you feel overcome and overwhelmed by it. You're able to navigate it differently or either to live with it differently and to go about your life in a much more connected way with yourself. And then here's my father, Kelvin Chin, where, this is some more about him, and I have some links on some buttons on here that you can click on to learn more about him.
So,
But
so
yeah,
Kelvin, your dad is quite a remarkable man. He at
it is.
19 worked with Maharishi, and Maharishi was so enamored with him as a young man that he actually put him in charge of training people all over Southeast Asia.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's quite amazing. And he's a lawyer, and he's created 3 different nonprofits, which this is one of his foundations. So he's quite remarkable in his perspective of this reality. And here's all of the links to him. And I'm a huge fan of your dad.
Yeah,
So,
I don't
so
blame you. I am too.
we have that
Yeah.
in common. But
Yeah.
what we want to say is that this could benefit you just like it benefited. Calvin started learning this meditation because he had high anxiety and he was going to law school. Well, he was in an Ivy League school first, and then, which is highly competitive. And obviously, he was around a lot of smart people, and he had to deal with it. And so he found meditation, and then he's evolved this to what you both are doing now, to something that's so simple. A child could do it, anyone can do it.
Mhm.
And that's why I want everyone to know about it, because this is a tool that everyone deserves to have in their toolkit.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's like you said, my dad, he didn't grow up spiritual or really thinking about a relationship with himself. He found well, it was TM when he found it. Because he was so stressed out that he was at the point where
Right.
he didn't know what else to do. So he's like, this is I'm gonna go to this seminar. And after the first seminar, that is where he felt like this is what's going to change my life. And it did. And it wasn't until further into his meditation teaching and teacher training and being with the movement that he started to have more of these spiritual experiences with himself. So I think that's something very notable about meditation is that a lot of what can kind of like shy people or kind of turn people off from meditation sometimes is this heaviness on spirituality, where with turning within, there's the option. Like it's the spiritual connection or spiritual conversation even that we have with you during the teaching is up to however much you are open to it. And
Right.
I think that the main priority that we talk about, there is a tab on the website is we talk about the fight or flight response, which is just something that happens to every single person that has a human body. And it's this natural process that is very helpful to us, but it's the survival tool that's been ingrained in us for so long that is overactive in this now very modern life that we have.
Right.
And when we go into this fight or flight response, it's meant for experiences that we're in a life or death situation. But our nervous system doesn't differentiate between life or death situations or regular stress like sitting in traffic. So our fight or flight response gets triggered. We have all of these chemical imbalances that go on sometimes multiple times a day that builds on itself days, weeks, months, years over time. And that's why we experience so much imbalance in our brain chemistry and our blood chemistry. But what this turning within does is it activates this opposite part of our nervous system
Right.
that is in the opposite part of the nervous system that is in charge of the fight or flight response so that it can begin to balance those things out. And that's why the stress management is so much of a forefront and why a lot of people come to us is for their high stress and high anxiety. They've tried other meditation techniques, they've tried medications, they've tried different forms of medicine, different, Eastern and Western types of medicine that haven't worked. And this meditation tool gets people from having daily panic attacks to not having panic attacks anymore. And it doesn't happen overnight, but it does happen quickly. And it happens gradually but quickly and much more noticeably than a lot of other methods that people have tried. So, as much as this meditation technique can help you with this connection with yourself, the forefront of what we teach to everybody, no matter what their objective is, whether it's spiritual or stress, is that we teach that it balances out your brain, your brain chemistry, your nervous system, because whether you have a belief system of spirituality or not, the reality is that we have this physical body that we have to take care of, and there are only so many physical things that we can do, like supplements, eating well, sleeping, exercising, that do heavily affect that balancing. But this other tool where we work with our mind and turning on these kind of automatic switches, is what this meditation will help you do.
Yes, I believe that we project this physical vessel from our soul. And so
Mhm.
the more that you're connected to your soul and you can tweak it, although I haven't made myself taller yet, but
Working on it.
well, why not? Why not? I mean,
Could be happening in millimeters. You never know.
that's probably all it will. But anyway, well, we're out of time now, but thank you, Sam. This was
Thank you
wonderful.
so much.
And could you again tell everyone the website where they can
Yes.
find you so that when they're ready, hopefully you're ready very soon because you'll see how fast this will be to learn. It's a quick series of classes. Then there's a support system with the classes that you can come back and do a meditation with everyone in group on Zoom. And it's available pretty much, it's so accessible. It's sort of, I just want to plead with people to do it, actually, tell you the truth. So
Yeah.
could you tell them the website so they can find you?
Yeah, so it's turningwithinmeditation.com. And through the contact page, you can send me a message. We can talk about what it is that you are interested in. And if you want to go through to just directly go into a class, you can go through the register page. And that's very at the very bottom, you can register for a class.
Perfect, perfect. Well, thank you so much, Sam, and we'll have to do this again. Thank you
Yeah,
very much. This was really fun, and I can really tell you're going to be a wonderful asset to the foundation and carrying that work forward because this is really more fun than not.
it is.
And you can make it fun. So that's
Yeah.
that's cool. Well,
Thank you
thank
so much.
you. Thank you. Thank
So
you.
nice to finally meet you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Bye.